only that witch could forget about me, everything would be fine and perfect. Oh, sweet thing. My precious baby boy. Never, ever let the ocean scare you. It may be a large, vast, salty body of water that stretches to the end of the earth, but it isn't frightening. Not if you don't allow it to be. Here, feel it. It's not the most warmest of waters, but it feels nice, doesn't it? I know, little one. It's a miracle we're both here. I wonder if you even know. You were still in my stomach after all. Hello, hey, come back here. You don't need to get too close to the ocean. Not just yet, at least. You're still just one after all. Come on, let's sit a little bit farther away, right here. I'll tell you a story. Would you like that? I'll take that as a yes. Let me think. What kind of story should I... Oh, I know. Let me tell you a story about the ocean, little one. Since we live right on top of it, we're so close. You might as well get acquainted at a young age. How do I start this? Once upon a time, a young woman and her father went on a fishing trip together. Now this woman and her father used to go fishing a lot more frequently, at least while her mother was alive. But when she died, her father got so heartbroken, sad, and almost a little delusional that he wouldn't take her fishing anymore. And as a result, she had to grow up very quickly. The father would still go fishing, but he wouldn't take her anymore. And the woman, the daughter, never quite understood why. Now, time had passed quite a bit, and she met the most handsome man. They got married and decided to have a child. Her father was so thrilled and happy that he decided to celebrate with his daughter, this young woman, with a fishing trip. Of course, after so many years of wondering why they never went fishing after her mother died, of course she said yes. How could she pass up this opportunity to bond with her father again, especially in the way that they would bond while they went fishing? It was a little different as opposed to being on land. They would just sit in the boat, eat some food, while the fishing lines would wait for a bite, and they would talk non-stop about things like life, music, philosophies, things that young ladies usually aren't able to talk about on land. It's usually considered unseemly and too advanced. Anyway, this young woman went fishing with her father. Even though her loving husband expressed his opinions and concerns about her going out into the open sea when she was so close to being in labor, she told him that everything would be fine, as she has done this many times before when she was younger. He let her go, and the woman and her father went down to the beach in their rowboat, as they had done so many times before, so many years ago, and started to row out into the deep blue sea. The whole time her father would talk about her mother, how much he missed her and loved her, how much he was sure that she, the mother, loved and missed her daughter, and how proud she would be that this young woman grew up so well and met such a kind-hearted man to marry, and that they were so close to having a child of their own. He gave her life advice, marriage advice, as well as advice on how to raise a baby, and considering again this was her first time. And for a while, things seemed to be going very well. They were having fun together, until she realized that her father hadn't stopped rowing since they left the shore. On top of that, there was a storm brewing, and she started to get a little nervous, especially when she noticed that her father looked very sad, and there was a strange look in his eyes. The woman told her father that they should head back, as her husband would get very nervous, more nervous than he already was, seeing the storm clouds beginning to roll in. But it seemed like he couldn't hear her. Her father was so busy rowing, so focused on whatever was going in his mind, that he didn't seem to hear her. Suddenly, as the storm got closer, she realized there was this formation of rocks that she didn't notice before. Either he had changed course from their normal fishing space, or they appeared out of nowhere. The woman grew increasingly concerned, especially considering the fact that no matter what she said and how loud she said it, her father didn't seem to listen. He seemed to be so fixated on one thing. And soon enough she also heard it, the sounds of women near the rocks. It was strange. She had no idea what it was. And unfortunately, by the time she saw the faces of those things, it almost seemed too late. They were beautiful voices coming from those women, but there was something off about them. They sang, and it seemed to put her father in a trance, causing him to row faster and faster towards those sharp rocks. At this point, the woman began to panic, begging, crying, pleading for her father to stop and row away, but he didn't seem to listen. She went as far as to try and struggle against him, to take those oars from his hands so she herself could row them back to safety. But his grip was too strong, and before she knew it, they had reached the sharp rocks. Almost immediately after impact, the boat seemed to shatter right away, causing them to tip over and fall into the cold ocean. Immediately, she was surrounded. There were at least a dozen of those women, those things. Their legs were fused together. They were covered on the top, but it didn't seem natural. They immediately swarmed against her father, and he gave her the most loving, kindest look as they took him and dragged him deep into the ocean. She knew she would never see him again, and at this point she didn't know what to do. She tried to swim up, but something was keeping her from it, whether it was because she had just lost her father before her very eyes, or because she was paralyzed in fear, seeing those things swim around her. She felt like she was meant to resign herself to this fate of drowning. However, it didn't happen. She was terrified when she was grabbed by one of those creatures, but instead of being pulled downward, she was pulled upward. She was brought back to the surface, and once she gathered her breath, She took a good look at what she was being saved by. It was one of those things, but there was something different about her. Her skin was lighter, she seemed stronger. Her hair was a different color and her eyes were brighter. It didn't matter though. Immediately, the woman asked why they took her father away from her and why they didn't take her as well. The creature, I guess you could say, described as what is called a siren, a mermaid that would sing for men to crash themselves into the rocks, told the woman that they were hungry, they needed food. Of course, the woman could only imagine what they meant by that. The siren continued and told her, as soon as they realized that a pregnant woman was on that boat, they got into an argument about whether or not she deserved to live. Some of them said that life was unfair and they were hungry, but others said that she and her unborn child deserved to have a chance to live, and that she should try and raise that little one as she saw fit. The leader made the last call, though, and said that she could live as long as a deal was made between her and them. This siren relayed that message to her as the leader was already busy feasting on their prize. The woman was in tears, confused, begging for a chance for both of them to live. But the siren was stern and told her that this was the best option for her. At least she would have some time to raise her child in the best way she could, to prove that she was a good mother before her time was up. Eventually, after she got tired and no tears would fall from her eyes anymore, the woman agreed to this deal, and within moments she was back on land, sitting on the beach as if nothing happened. She was dazed, shocked, confused, and scared, as her feet, her hair were still wet, but her skin was dry. However, amidst that confusion in her head, one thing was very clear. She was safe, and her unborn child is safe. She couldn't tell exactly if what happened to her was real or if it was just a fevered dream. So she got up, quickly brushed the sand off of her dress, and ran up the pathway towards her father's house, hoping and praying that he would be there. When she realized that he wasn't, the tears came back, and an overwhelming sadness washed over her. She cried for what seemed like forever, but only a little time passed, and then she remembered what happened with every single little detail. It chilled her to the bone, and she remembered what she told the siren. Eventually the tears stopped, and she made her way home. Unfortunately, that storm that was on the waters moved onto the land, and she walked in the pouring rain to her home. Her husband was relieved to see her, but that relief quickly turned into concern as he realized that she was alone and didn't carry the equipment that she left with. She tried to tell him the story of what she experienced, and while he didn't believe her at first, seeing the look in her eyes and the sadness in her voice, he decided not to ask any questions, but to comfort her instead. Time passed, and soon enough they had a beautiful baby boy. She remembered everything, but she also remembered her promise to her child when she was rescued. She would be the best mother ever, teach him everything that she knew as long as she was there, and she promised him, as she had also promised the siren a few weeks before, that he would learn to love the ocean by her teachings, to learn to love its mysteries, its animals, and all of its wonders. and she promised to love him forever, no matter what happened to him or to her. And now, they live happily with her husband, with his father, and they move on day by day, despite the sad memory of the loss of her father. Did you like that story, little one? My precious baby boy. I know you can't really talk quite yet, but based off of how you look, that adorable smile on your face, I'd take that as a yes. I'm glad you liked it. The ocean, while very scary at times, is ultimately a beautiful place. I hope you grow to love it as I have, despite any dangers that may be lurking in the ocean. I love you so much, little one. I promise to raise you as best as I can, to love and protect you as long as I'm here. I see the tide is starting to rise. Come on, let's get up. Your father's waiting for us. I think he said he had something very special prepared for dinner tonight. I'm so lucky. Your father knows how to cook. Now, let's go home. I think that's enough ocean for today. Don't worry. We'll be back soon. I promise.